I'm joined by the man behind the scheme, Peter Dawson. So tell me exactly how it works from a builder's or contractor's point of view.
In very, very simple terms, the consumer is committing to the job in advance. They will negotiate their contract with the builder, with the contractor, and the terms and conditions, the price and everything else. In the past, the consumer would often be asked to pay a deposit of varying sizes. Now, a cynic may say that there is no need for a deposit because the builder should have some credit arrangement, whatever, but at times substantial deposits are asked for, and this is when the system can start to go wrong. What we actually came up with is slightly novel of asking the consumer, well, if you pay 100% as a commitment into a trust, then the contractor really has nothing to argue about because you have shown your ability to pay, you have made your commitment to him that you wish the work to be done, but he can't actually take the money at that point. He has to now fulfil his part of the bargain and complete the contract. And upon a successful completion, the money is then released to him. The important part from his point of view is released to him immediately. Not, again, as you mentioned in your intro, in 30 days' time or with 3 post-dated cheques or whatever.
So as long as the consumer says, yes, I'm happy with the work that's been done, it's been completed to a good standard, the money is then released to
the money is then
builder.
released, the consumer would then release the money to the contractor, and that is a bank-to-bank transfer, so the money goes straight into the contractor's bank account.
Right. So, big question is, how much is it going to cost me as a builder or contractor to take part in the scheme?
It's going to cost you 2.5% of that contract value. Now, for some of the builders, contractors out there who are currently factoring, they will be doing very well if they're only paying 5 or 6%. I've known cases approaching double figures. If, as is so often the case now, the consumer is concerned about making a payment, therefore they insist on trying to make it with a credit card, then there are finance company charges and there's merchant service charges that the contractor is having to pay. This way, we are talking about a bank-to-bank transfer. There is no need for the consumer to go through a credit card payment facility because the money is protected within the escrow, and hence there are no fees on the contractor to pay for that merchant service.
So what happens if the consumer says, actually, you know what, I'm not going to pay? Are they bound to pay?
Once they have paid the money into the escrow account, yes, they are bound to pay. They have contracted, they have agreed an amount, a schedule of works and everything else with that contractor, and it's only right and proper that once the money goes in, it stays there until the contractor does the work. Obviously, if the contractor were to fail, disappear, whatever, then either that money can be used with another contractor or indeed would be returned to the consumer. But from a contractor's perspective, the consumer cannot simply have a change of heart part way through. So it does protect both sides.
What about stage payments?
Stage payments really become 2, 3, 4 individual Bondpay contracts that a stage payment may be paid, let's say, for foundation work. So the £10,000 may be paid into the Bondpay account, the foundations are laid. If the customer is then happy with that job, the money is then released to the contractor for that stage payment. The next stage, which is then agreed, which has all hopefully been agreed in advance in the contract before they started, then the second tranche of money would then be paid into the Bondpay account, and the exact same process continues. And this feasibly could happen 3, 4, 5, 6 times until the work is completed. If it were a very large extension, we could pay a 6-figure sum. So, of course, we don't expect the contractor to sit and wait till the very end before he sees a penny. That wouldn't be right either. But the whole thing is simply a series of individual Bondpay transactions.
Right. And in terms of the customer, presumably I can use this as a builder as a bit of a sales tool?
I would like to think so. We've all heard the horror stories of consumers who have been asked to pay deposits and everything else. I would like to think a reputable builder will very much use this as a sales tool to ask for the commitment from his client to pay the money into the trust, and that should be acceptable to him. That people who ask for sizable deposits have to raise a question mark. But it is equally totally acceptable that a contractor should insist on a commitment from a customer. He can't be expected to complete the work at considerable cost and time to himself and then hope to simply be paid.
At what point do I pay for the service as a builder?
At the point when the work is complete and the consumer is happy to release the money to you, at that point when the transfer goes from the Bondpay account to your account, that is when the 2.5% fee is taken from the trust account to the Bondpay account, and the balance obviously goes to your account.
Right, so there's no upfront fees?
There is no upfront fee at all. It is any fees that are involved here only come once we hopefully have two contented parties.
What about dispute resolution?
Dispute resolution, the main areas we have of dispute resolution should not occur anymore. From the rogue consumer point of view, it's always trying to get that payment from them. Contractors have a huge problem with people saying that there may be the odd scratch here and there, and therefore they won't pay for their £20,000 conservatory. These issues shouldn't have. What we've tried to address are the more serious areas where possibly there have been breaches of building regulation or something, and that there is a serious problem with the job. We have, as one of our other group companies, a technical auditing company, where we have nationwide panel of surveyors that we use. These surveyors would be used to come into these jobs where there was a complaint and make sure what has happened, who is right, who is wrong. Unfortunately, it's not always quite black and white. If it does go to a further stage, we have already built in a full arbitration system that is covered by our insurance as well, so this is not going to be an upfront cost yet again. The arbitration system, of course, is binding at law. Both parties agree to that at the time they contract in the first instance, so there is a flow right through that should resolve. But the main areas of resolution we have currently should be removed by the actual Bondpay scheme itself.
But the days of courts and small claims courts and all that kind of stuff, hopefully that can be put
Hopefully these have gone.
us.
In the worst case scenario that something got to a court case, the Bondpay guarantee as such is that we would ensure that the consumer were protected properly, and it would actually be Bondpay and the contractor who may have the dispute. But let's hope it never comes to that.
What kind of feedback and response have you had from the trade associations to this scheme?
The trade associations have proverbially bitten their hands off for this, because the constant complaint and problem they have from their members is, how do I get paid on time? It is extremely damaging for a small contractor where he has relatively low credit limits with his merchants, and if he exceeds those, he has major problems, and exceeding it can literally be because a consumer happened to go off on holiday for a few weeks at the end of the job before they paid him. Not his fault, but his next job he can't get the materials for because he's now reached his credit limit. Again, these are the kind of areas that this scheme will address, because even if necessary from the contractor's point of view, the payment can be overridden. If the job is done and our surveyor confirms that the job is done, payment will be made, and they can rely upon that.
Merchants, any advantages to merchants becoming involved in this?
We hope there will be. We've spoken to many merchants at the moment, and they have looked at the situation and said that this would be wonderful, because we have our contractors will come to us and tell us that they have loads of jobs on their books and they expect to have £100,000 in no time at all. And unfortunately the merchants say, heard it. What we now have is a situation where a contractor will actually be able to show his merchant that he does have commitment, and indeed has commitment by way of payment. And this is quite an exciting way of going forward, and the merchants are now coming to us to say, well, can we look at some kind of scheme to try and assist our contractors, for the very reasons I've given. They need a variable credit limit. A fixed amount actually isn't ideal anymore, and this would allow them to have a variable limit linked possibly to the commitment they have from the consumer.
So, as a builder or a contractor, how do I become involved in this?
You click on bondpay.co.uk and the rest will be done for you.
Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you.